And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday, everyone. Oh my God, it feels good to be back for a wingy. And we are here early today, about 1 hour earlier than we usually come up on Saturdays, because yours truly, Greg Morgan, has got one of the busiest days of his life tonight at work, but there was no way I was going to skip this podcast. Under normal circumstances, I probably would have skipped today's podcast, but I just got back from vacation. I'm trying to get back into the YouTube swing of things, and this is going to be kind of like a catch-up podcast. I thought about maybe doing a mustard podcast or a relish podcast, but I think a catch-up podcast would be best because we have a lot to catch up on. There's a lot of news that I'm going to be talking about here that might be kind of old, maybe even a week old, some of these stories, but they are stories that I wanted to offer comments about because most of these stories, when this stuff was, breaking on social media and whatnot, I was tagged in a lot of it when I was on vacation. So you guys clearly want to know what I have to say about this stuff. So I've wrote down a lot of news. It's going to be mostly news heavy. This is going to be kind of, mostly just a chat, catching up on what I missed. We're going to talk a little bit about WWE results. We're going to talk about this past Monday, briefly some of the key points there, and we'll talk about last night's SmackDown. In terms of AEW, this past Wednesday, the day I got back from vacation, arrived here at 8 a.m. in the morning after flying on a red eye. I actually came up Wednesday night and reviewed Dynamite 250 because there was that great MJF and Will Ospreay match on that card, and I was interested in that show, so I came up Wednesday just to kind of slowly get back into the YouTube swing of things, and I reviewed Dynamite 250. So if you've not seen that review, it's up on my channel right now, so we probably will not be talking much about Dynamite 250, mostly just some Raw stuff, the Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, CM Punk stuff, Mommy and Dom, and Damian Priest and Gunther. Last night's SmackDown, not a terribly good show, although they had a fucking classic there, a banger with Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, which was a lot of fun, but overall not that exciting of a SmackDown last night. So in terms of results, we're not going to spend a ton of time on that. We're going to be talking about a lot of wrestling news. We're going to talk about what appears to be a special guest referee spot for Seth Rollins this year at SummerSlam. We're also going to talk about a big new hire in WWE land. We're going to talk about the Stephanie Vaquer to WWE signing that was the talk of the town while I was gone. I'll offer some comments on that. WWE also has a new trademark policy that I want to get into. Janelle Grant has filed a new petition in the Vince McMahon case and lawsuit. That's a little bit interesting. We have some signings coming into WWE. Hikuleo we'll probably talk about. We're also going to talk about the latest on Sammy Guevara, where the Motor City Machine Guns might wind up. Joe Hendry's appearance in NXT this week. AEW's media rights deal, which apparently is imminent again. And Cody Rhodes was a guest on the Chris Van Vliet show this week, where he talked a lot about AEW, and that created some buzz. So we'll be talking about those news items. Anything else you guys want me to get into, just let me know over here in the chat, and I'll try to touch on it. If I have any, information or knowledge on the subject, I will be sure to discuss it. And like I said, we'll talk about Raw and last night's SmackDown, and we will preview the cards for both SummerSlam, which is looking pretty much almost set, and so is All In. Even though some of these matches aren't technically official yet, they're going to happen. And when you start adding up the matches, both cards are probably almost to their full form, give or take a match or two. So we'll kind of talk about that and, maybe offer some early predictions. We have SummerSlam coming up, 2 weeks from today, I believe, right? So we'll be here next Saturday. We'll do another wingy, but 2 weeks from today, we will be up here for a big, fun SummerSlam 2024 watch party. We will be here all day. That's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. We'll probably be doing the same thing for All In when it's time for that show. So, like I said, today is just kind of me getting reacclimated to being a YouTuber again after my long break being in Hawaii and trying to catch up on the news and talk to you guys about what's going on and just refamiliarize myself with the wrestling surroundings. You know what I mean? That is what is on tap today. Good to see everybody here. I will do some shout outs here in just 1 second, and then I will let you guys know what's the plan or what the plans are for this weekend and this week coming up on the channel, and maybe even some future stuff as well. So that's kind of what we got going on this lovely Saturday afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're having a great one today, and thank you so much for being here. You know the drill, that little thumbs up, that little thing that looks like that. click it with your mouse. Take your mouse, move your arrow to that thing, and then click on it and make sure it lights up so you give this video a like. There's also a subscribe button down there that you can do the same thing. If you really want to support, memberships are open, so are super chats. Also have a Patreon page, all that good stuff. Check the description for the info, but I'm not going to bore you with that nonsense. We got to get down to business because I probably only have about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes today, and then I head off to work to get my ass handed to me. So please wish me luck. It's going to be a very profitable night, but it's going to be a very, very busy night, and I'm a little scared. But first and foremost, we are here to talk wrestling. Here's what we got coming up on the channel this weekend. Tomorrow, watch-along, classic watch-alongs return. We're going to watch SummerSlam 2006. When we were up here, I believe on Wednesday, doing the Dynamite review, our friend Barry recommended SummerSlam 2006. And I'm like, well, I know that's Hogan and Orton, and I think that's Flair and Foley, and we haven't done that one yet. We've done 04, we've done 05, we've done 03, we've done almost all of the 90s except for a couple of the bad ones. So 2006 it is. We're going to be doing that one tomorrow. 1 week from tomorrow, next Sunday, SummerSlam 1999. The links to both of these videos are already up, so you can see them on my channel there. We will also be here Monday night after Raw. There will probably be a lot more to talk about, and hopefully we will get some answers about what exactly is going on with CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre and exactly what type of match they're going to book at SummerSlam. They better figure it out by next week because SummerSlam's creeping up, so we'll be here on Monday to talk about that, and we will talk about anything else that's going on. The G1 Climax kicked off last night. Konosuke Takeshita picked up a big win in the B block, and TNA Slammiversary is tonight. So if you're watching those shows, I hope you enjoy your weekend of wrestling because it's a big one and there's a lot going on. So we will be here tomorrow for a classic watch-along, back in again on Monday for a Raw review, and then, you'll have some intermittent content on the channel throughout the week before we hit next week's podcast. That's kind of the deal there. Now, let me say hello to all my friends and gangstas in the chat. Let's try to hit some channel members first, like Red Raven Rucker. We got Tatanani, Superman, Bass Fisher, and Zach Pelgett. You got to follow me back on my new Twitter. All right, well, just I'll try to find you. Tweet me or something. I wish you could poke me. What was it they used to have back in the day? Finger poke? I don't know. The finger poke of doom. Just give me a poke of doom. Make sure I know where your chat or your account is at, and I'll shoot you a follow over there. If you are a channel member and I'm not following you on social media, I'm primarily most active over on Twitter. Just shoot me a DM or tag me in something and say, yo, follow me, asshole, and I will. Let's see. Who else is here? We got Joshua Aparicio. Twice, and you're chiming in with $5. Good to see you, man. Say his name and he appears. I believe he's world champ tonight. Clap, clap. Is he going after the world title? See, I don't even know what's going on TNA Slammiversary, but he did appear on NXT this past week, and that would make sense if he was about to win the big one here tonight, and TNA is going to capitalize on this buzz and popularity that Joe Hendry has been able to achieve for himself, and I kind of hope he does win the title if he's booked. I don't even know the card. I didn't even know he had a title match, to be honest. You guys are more dialed into TNA than I am. Good to see Mike Rouse and Michael Kumo and Isaac chiming in. Also, Brandon McNeil and Big J. All right, we got some good channel members in here. I also want to say hello to Nicola, Denny Downbad, Rodrigo. We got Mohammed. We got Martin Tomlinson, Ricky, Zalvadar. Good to see you. Zaldivar. I always do that wrong. I'm sorry, buddy. William Cullen is in the house, and so is regular William. We got William and William Cullen. We got Ben Espinoza. We got Sonic Plays, Decimania. All sports are scripted. Greetings from your vacation. Right on. All right, you are back, or you are on your vacation. I'm not even sure when you're coming back. Hope you have a good time. Jose Lopez is here as well. We have Stephen Harris, I see. We have Roman Stone and Max Pokebruh, 23-month channel member. I'm surprised. I want Nia Jax. I'm surprised I want Nia Jax to win at SummerSlam. For some reason, my peripheral vision saw an exclamation point, and so I thought you said, I'm surprised. And then you said, I want Nia Jax to win at SummerSlam. I thought those were two different sentences, but it's one sentence, and you are surprised that you want Nia Jax to win at SummerSlam. I'm surprised that I want her to win at SummerSlam too. Although, I did like what we saw out of Bayley last night. Bayley kind of rejuvenated my love for her. She kind of put down and shit on Nia Jax in the sit-down interview, and then she just destroyed the hell out of the briefcase later on. That's the Bayley that I like. And I do think that Nia Jax probably will win, and I will be okay with it. But I do really, really like Bayley a lot. But you know what? That's the way it goes. And Nia Jax has had a pretty successful return to the company. I ain't going to lie. I wanted nothing. You would have told me this 1 year ago. I would have said, God damn, no matter what you do not bring that fucking woman back to this company. Please, God, no. And then they did it. And it was like almost instant. Like her first night on TV, I'm like, okay, that didn't suck so bad. And then her second night on TV, that didn't suck either. Then she had a match. Oh, that was pretty good. Oh, then she beat Becky Lynch. Oh, that was even better. Triple H just gets it, I guess. And their use of her has been tremendous. So I am actually going to be all right if she walks out with the title because she's been doing good work. And I'm just trying to be honest. It's not fun to say that, but it's just the truth. She's good. She's a lot better this time around than she ever was before in the company. Good to see the new one, Vontae. You're here. Good to see everybody. Rodrigo thinks Tiffy is going to cash in at SummerSlam. She might because she's right in the middle of all this with Nia Jax and Bayley. And with Bayley tearing up the briefcase, I think that's likely. However, that means we're going to go almost a year with no briefcases at all. I was under the assumption or belief, my heart of hearts, my gut, whatever you want to call it, around Money in the Bank time earlier this month, that if we get a one-night cash-in with Drew, that the women would keep the briefcase for a while. And I think Tiffany will. I expected Tiffany to keep it until like the beginning of 2025. Tiffany, she can make that an accessory. There's no reason to rush her. I'm not saying, Rodrigo, that you're wrong, that she's not going to cash in at SummerSlam. That could very well happen. If I'm Triple H, I'm not doing that. You got to have one briefcase out there just for fun. Don't burn them both off within 3 weeks of your pay-per-view. I just wouldn't do that. But we've seen that happen in other years where we've lost both briefcases almost instantly. That one year where Becky Lynch just put her belt in there when she got pregnant, and I forgot what happened with the other briefcase that year. Wasn't the year Otis won it and then he ended up losing it too? I don't know. It was a mess. But I think that Tiffany needs to hold it for a little while longer. But we'll talk about all that as we get into our subjects for this afternoon. All right, let me give my page a little refresh. Nice. All right, we are back for a wingy on a Saturday. It feels good. Well, let's start talking about some wrestling news. I think that would be a good place to start here. And I guess the big news of the last couple of days was this belief from sources, or whoever you want to believe, and based on the evidence that we saw on Monday night with the segment that they did with Drew McIntyre and Adam Pearce and Seth Rollins. And here on this channel, we have been speculating about what Seth Rollins is going to do ever since before Money in the Bank. As soon as he came back, and then he was booked for the match with Priest, and I'm like, okay, well, what happens at Money in the Bank? Because Gunther's facing the champion, so if Seth doesn't win, who's he left to face? What match could they set up within a month that would be worthy of SummerSlam? Because we know Punk and Drew are going to be headed for a clash, but since Seth got in Punk's face a couple of weeks ago, and he's kind of been inserting himself into the situation, it made fans wonder if this could perhaps be a triple threat, or if 27 years to the day of SummerSlam 1997, because 1997 and 2024 SummerSlams are both being held on August 3rd, they could do a match a la Brett and Undertaker when Shawn Michaels was the referee. It could be something like that, but it's amazing to me if you're WWE and you have a cleared and healthy Seth Rollins available, you stick him in the zebra stripes at SummerSlam? That's what we're doing? I mean, it would be a big, pay-per-view match off, I guess, for Rollins. But, who's to say Rollins doesn't want that big pay-per-view match against somebody? But there's really not a spot for him against an opponent. He doesn't have any story going on with anybody except for McIntyre and CM Punk, because he's had run-ins with both of them all year long. Drew McIntyre was Seth Rollins' WrestleMania opponent. And if Rollins is set to be the referee, you know what? I guess I'm fine with that. Now, we should talk about what we saw on Monday night. So McIntyre got suspended after his outburst at Money in the Bank. We know that. CM Punk then showed up the next night on Raw and Rollins got in his face a little bit. And Punk kind of hinted that he wants McIntyre unsuspended or whatever. I think that's what happened, right? So then last week, or this past Monday, McIntyre is there. Adam Pearce brings him to the ring, and he brings all the referees that he threw down and assaulted at Money in the Bank, and even Pearce caught an elbow from McIntyre as well. So Pearce is basically forcing McIntyre, hey, if you want your suspension lifted, if you want to face CM Punk at SummerSlam, if that's who you want, you have to apologize. Like he's a fucking 5-year-old. You have to apologize to all these referees and everybody you assaulted. And, of course, McIntyre does not want to do that. And he goes, you guys should be apologizing to me after all this screwing you've done of me. And Punk, tormenting him. And he cut a really, really passionate kind of promo where it's one of my favorite things. I love it when the heel is right. McIntyre was virtually right in everything he said. McIntyre has reason to be pissed off at everybody, including Adam Pearce, who's coming off like a huge dick here, making him apologize, and Drew just will not do it. He winds up shoving down the referees, and he gets right in Adam Pearce's face, and that's when Seth Rollins comes out. Rollins comes to the ring, a brawl starts, Drew dodges a stomp and gets out of dodge and leaves, and they kind of left the whole thing up in the air. So I thought for sure on Monday that would be where we would get the official announcement of Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. I guess what's happening here is maybe WWE is not completely sure. I mean, hearing Meltzer talk about this week was like just going on a merry-go-round, because I don't hate Meltzer the way everybody else does. I like Dave just fine, but sometimes he can be Captain Obvious a little bit, and nothing that he said about this situation was any news. It was just him speculating and thinking out loud, much like I am right now, and that maybe, Punk is still working on getting 100% cleared. I think the belief internally that we heard is that he will be cleared, and creative is operating with the assumption that he will be cleared. But the way they're tying in Rollins to all of this makes it look like they have a contingency plan in place. So if Punk gets word from his doctors maybe this Monday, which I think WWE is hoping to have word by then, if he's not cleared, they might have to go Rollins and McIntyre. And the winner of that gets to face CM Punk because they're both pissed at him, right? Maybe that's what they're doing. If Punk is good to go, then I guess you just tie in Seth Rollins some other way. And if he was the special guest referee for this match, it would be weird having a talent the caliber of Rollins healthy and use him in a referee role. Yes, I get that. But if it's between using Rollins as a referee and Punk and Drew, or him just having a random match against somebody that he doesn't even have an ongoing story with, I'd rather see him be the referee, to be honest, because I think that could add something to this match. McIntyre and Punk, you would think, are going to have a very, very brutal, hard-hitting match. And Punk is coming right off of being cleared, so he hasn't been in the ring. He's barely wrestled at all in the last year and a half or 2 years. In the last 2 years, how many matches has CM Punk had? 4 or something? It's a small number, whatever it is. So I think that, Punk is already going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage there physically. We've all been talking about Punk's health and him being able to stay healthy, and now he's going to have a match that probably is going to be somewhat similar or rival what he did with Brock Lesnar back in 2013. You got to think it's going to be a lot of hard-hitting, stuff and a lot of brutal action there. And you would also expect some kind of a stip. I would be very surprised if they booked this match as a regular match, meaning you can get DQ'd or counted out. That seems weird. Now, if you add and factor in Seth Rollins to the mix as a special referee, then he can let them bend the rules or whatever. And I think if Rollins was the referee, one thing that benefits this match, one way that benefits this match is that you can do a finish to where you can revisit it. You can kind of protect both guys. Rollins can be involved in the finish. Back in 97, Shawn hit Taker in the face with a chair and then was forced to count 3 kind of thing. So there's that asterisk there. Sure, Brett beat Taker, but did he really beat Taker? And when you look at Bad Blood on the horizon on October 5th, what feud in WWE right now would warrant a Hell in the Cell match more than McIntyre and Punk? So I think that would be an excellent blow-off spot, especially if you did some, weird wonky finish that sets up a possibility for a Punk and Seth match in the future. Maybe Punk works with Seth next. That could be what they do. It could be CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. Seth, either inadvertently or on purpose, costs CM Punk the match. Then they turn right around at the next show, which might be Bash at Berlin or whatever the hell it is, and they might just do Punk and Rollins right there. Just give that one to us. Just do it. Why not? International show, Punk, Rollins, fuck it. Just do it. Then, after that's over, you can turn around and then let's say McIntyre comes out in that match and screws Punk. So now Seth helped Drew beat Punk, and now Drew helped Seth beat Punk. That's 2 losses in a row for Punk now at big pay-per-views. Now he's pissed, challenges Drew McIntyre to the Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood on October 5th and beats him there. Something like that. And then he can maybe resume his deal with Rollins. I even think it would be a lot of fun. It's funny how Bad Blood and SummerSlam in 1997 are falling on the same day this year. Isn't that weird? October 5th and August 3rd. So what if they did a stip in McIntyre and Punk in the Hell in the Cell match, the same stip that they gave Shawn and Taker? The winner of Shawn Michaels and Undertaker at Bad Blood in 97 was going to face Bret Hart for the title at Survivor Series, which of course was where the screw job happened. So if they did the same thing, Punk and McIntyre, Punk gets beat by Drew at SummerSlam. Then he gets beat by Seth Rollins right after that. Then he gets a match with McIntyre in the cell, with the winner getting a title shot at Survivor Series. And Punk wins, and then maybe it's Punk and Gunther at Survivor Series or something. Or Drew and Gunther. I don't know. But if it shakes out like that, I won't exactly hate it. I think having Rollins in the ring as a referee might not have been ideal, might not have been the first thing I would have done. But now when you really think about it, and you think about what Rollins would potentially do instead if he wasn't the guest referee, what else is he going to do? So I'd rather when Drew and Punk face each other for the first time, the last thing I want is a third man or a third participant in that ring. That needs to be one-on-one. So I'm not interested in the triple threat idea. I'm just not. Because Drew and Punk's issue is too deep. You can do a triple threat down the road or something. Maybe even at Bad Blood. Why not have they ever done a triple threat Hell in the Cell? Have we? Sure we have. Help me. Has that happened? Feels like it's happened. But maybe you do that in Hell in the Cell. Maybe this issue between the three of them just continues to grow, where the only thing you can do is just, Pierce is just like, F it. All three of you get in that cage, fight it out to the death. Maybe that's what they do. I don't know. But it sounds like McIntyre, Seth, and Punk should be linked minimum through October. So we'll see what kind of road we get taken on. But first, we got to ensure that CM Punk gets cleared. If something happens and doctors cannot clear him, I feel like he's cleared because he's already been doing physical stuff. You know, I don't know how that works with being cleared in pro wrestling. If you're cleared, is having a brawl in a promo segment the same clearance as a match would be? I mean, you would think it is. You're doing the same stuff. You're taking bumps. So Punk has been active. Punk has been physical, and since his return from his injury. So I feel like he's probably good to go. But maybe they're just being extra cautious, extra careful. Want to make sure one more checkup, one more green light from the doctors, and then we're a go. I hope so, because I mean, if they string us along one more night on this Monday, if we don't get any answers yet, I'm going to start getting a little worried about what they actually plan to do here with these guys, because the issue with Punk and Drew is so deep and so personal that there's no reason to wait to announce this match. They didn't waste any time with Ripley and Morgan, so why are they going to waste time with Punk and Drew? Something might be up, so we'll keep our eye on that on Monday. Chris Ludek, why was SummerSlam 97 so early? I don't know. Did Vince already have a plan to have Bret drop the belt to Shawn that fall and force him out of the WWE? I don't know, but I have speculated, and I talked about this, I think, in the Bret Hart SummerSlam video I just did. You know, something happened there when Shawn, after Bret and Shawn got in that fight the night after King of the Ring backstage. Shawn left. He got pissed. He was already showing up at house shows wearing outsider shirts. He wanted to go to WCW. He really missed his clique buddies. And when that happened, I think he was waiting for something like that to happen. He brought in the chunk of hair, and threw it on Vince's desk. It's this unsafe working environment and all that. He was working to get out of the company. And then all of a sudden, he's just back. Special guest referee for SummerSlam, like nothing ever happened. And I've always kind of wondered in the back of my mind if him and Vince just didn't have some meeting before SummerSlam that year in 97. He's like, just give me some time. I'll get Bret out. I know one of you's got to go. I'd rather it be Bret. Let me handle it. And maybe Shawn was okay. Maybe Vince gave him a guarantee. I guarantee you Bret will be gone soon and you'll be the top guy in the company. And that's, the next month is when he told Bret that he couldn't afford the contract anymore. So a lot changed there. And that was a fishy situation. But in terms of why SummerSlam was so early, SummerSlam's been all different dates in August. I think the latest it's been is, the 22nd or 3rd or something like that. But it can range anywhere in August. And we've had early SummerSlams before, not the first one. But it is kind of cool how 1997 and 2024 are lining up with some of these pay-per-view dates. So that's the latest with Rollins and Punk there. We'll see what happens on Monday night. I'm curious, what they're going to do and if we're actually going to see this match get officially announced. Who's the hot chick in the thumbnail? We're going to talk about her in a minute. How do you not know who Stephanie Vaquer is after all the news she made this week? But before we get to Stephanie, let's talk about a big new WWE hire. This is kind of interesting. This week, WWE announced that they have hired Joe Tessitore from ESPN. He's been a long-time college football analyst on that network for about 20 years now, and that's a big hire for them. Now, I got a few feelings on it, but let me read you the statement from WWE about this hire. Joe Tessitore, one of the most versatile and veteran voices in sports television, will join the company as a play-by-play broadcaster beginning this summer. In this role, Tessitore will work alongside analysts Wade Barrett and Corey Graves. Michael Cole and Pat McAfee will remain teamed up. So that tells me that Tessitore is coming to Raw. Raw is the 3-hour show. Barrett and Graves are calling that. They're going to add another guy in here and make it a 3-man booth while Cole and McAfee, Barrett and Graves do SmackDown, right? I'm sorry. Is that what happens? Who's where? I thought maybe they're switching people around. Michael Cole and Pat McAfee are currently on Raw. That's right, because Pat McAfee dances whenever Jey Uso comes out. So they might be moving Cole and McAfee to SmackDown. And then maybe Barrett, Graves, and Tessitore on Raw. Is that what they're doing? We're not really sure yet, but he's going to be working with Barrett and Graves according to this statement from WWE. The statement goes on to say, with nearly 3 decades of broadcasting experience, Tessitore is widely considered one of the industry's foremost play callers. Tessitore will remain in his role at ESPN and ABC, where since 2002, he has been a key fixture on the network's coverage of college football. He's called ESPN and ABC Saturday Night Primetime games, the college football playoff, and more. Tessitore is well known as ESPN's blow-by-blow commentator, having called memorable world championship fights of Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Terrence Crawford, among many others. Additionally, he has led ESPN's Monday Night Football and has called the NFL Pro Bowl and Wild Card playoff games on ABC. He has found success in entertainment as well, teaming up with Rob Riggle and Stephen Curry on the comedy competition Holy Moly. So, sounds like he's not going to be leaving ESPN. And he's going to be coming in, I guess maybe kind of like Pat McAfee does. McAfee still does all of his ESPN duties, plus he has his podcast. So he has his whole separate life outside of this. Sounds like that's going to be the same for Joe Tessitore. Now, when it comes to bringing in outside play-by-play people, all I really ask for is these people know the business. They're wrestling fans. It's very important for them to be wrestling fans. It's not going to translate if they're not. It's just not. And we've seen that happen before. You have to know the product. You have to know wrestling. You have to know what wrestling is to call this. You can't just bring in any old football announcer to sit in this chair. It's not going to work. But Tessitore apparently is a lifelong wrestling fan, and he should do fine in this role. Now, WWE has had stints of bringing in outside play-by-play guys before. Most recently, I believe, in Adnan Virk and Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith did great. Virk didn't really work out. You could tell that was not going to work out. Jimmy Smith, I liked it just fine. Of course, years ago, we had Mike Adamle. We remember how that went. And probably the most successful would be Mauro Ranallo, who I would like to think would still be in WWE if it weren't for, some of the issues that caused him to leave. So with those names, Mauro is the only one that I really feel like saw any success because he had such a unique and ridiculous way of calling the action that he doesn't really have anyone like him. So that set him apart. Jimmy Smith was excellent, but he was, I wouldn't even say he was bland. He was just really good to the point where you kind of didn't realize there's a new voice there. His voice was easy to listen to. He wasn't distracting. You kind of almost didn't even realize he was there. And that's not a bad thing. He was doing a good job just calling the action. But at the end of the day, his, time in the company didn't work out either. I think WWE already has a great cast of play-by-play announcers or color guys in the company to where no outside hires are even needed. But Joe Tessitore does bring a lot of broadcasting experience, and that could help them in the long run. Plus, I'm not saying he's the guy. I'm just saying at some point, somebody is going to have to assume the role that Michael Cole is in. I would think that might go to Corey Graves at this point, but if Cole ever decides to retire, which, he said he doesn't intend on doing this for his whole life, he will step away at some point. Somebody's going to have to be Michael Cole in the future. So we will see what all goes on there. Welcome to the WWE family there, Joe Tessitore. We'll see where he winds up. And if they are waiting until, they said he's going to be joining the team this summer. I thought maybe they would wait until Raw and SmackDown switch their networks, and maybe Tessitore, Graves, and Wade Barrett all go to Netflix, and then Michael Cole and Pat McAfee jump over to the USA Network on SmackDown. That's what I feel like they're doing here, but shit, it could be anything. We don't even know. Who asked about the hot chick in the thumbnail? That's who we're going to talk about next. Stephanie Vaquer. While I was on vacation, surprisingly, just up and signed with WWE. This is just days after her Forbidden Door match in AEW against Mercedes Moné, where she had a really good showing. I remember that night I was saying, I like this Stephanie Vaquer. I had only most recently become familiar with her. I saw 2 of her matches, and then watching the Forbidden Door match, I'm like, she's great. I hope they keep her around. I hope AEW either signs her or continues to use her, because she had a great showing. And I remember that night on the review, a lot of people were more impressed with her than they were Mercedes Moné. So then I go on vacation. I go to Hawaii. I'm just there having a good time. And it's reported that Stephanie Vaquer has signed with WWE out of the blue and leaves CMLL and New Japan before dropping the 3 championships that she currently holds: the New Japan Women's Strong, the CMLL Tag, and the CMLL World Championship, Women's World Championship. She had 3 titles and left without dropping any of them. She worked with and beat Tessa Blanchard about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that, where, they had a nice embrace after the match, and you kind of got the feeling that something was up there. It felt like a goodbye. And then after that, she pulled out of the rest of her shows and did not drop any of the championships before leaving. So naturally, that caused a huge, so there's two recreational outrage camps for this. One of them was the tribal psychos. Oh, it's a betrayal, and she signed with WWE and unprofessional and blah, blah, blah. And then there's the other camp. Oh, she didn't drop the titles and blah, 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 blah. So once again, here in the community, we have a bunch of Charlie fuckboys who are the day stock boys at 7-Eleven, worrying about how professionals conduct their business and how they accept deals and how they provide for themselves and their family. That is what's important to them. Not cleaning up their own disgusting life, but worrying about and throwing and spewing hate and rage at somebody else for no reason. Normal people, like myself and everybody here in the chat, did we have any sort of issue with this? No. Now, in terms of her not dropping her championships, there's a big reason for that. I think, in past situations, WWE has never had any problem with anybody finishing up business before they come. A lot of times WWE encourages that. Finish up your business and come to us. This was a different situation, though, because they wanted Stephanie Vaquer, and they signed her, and on the weekend of her signing, they had shows in Mexico City and Monterrey where they wanted her to be appearing on, where they wanted her to appear on. So she had no choice but to leave. This is what they wanted. You think WWE gives a shit? They don't. They're always cool with people finishing out their dates and dropping titles and whatnot. They're usually cool about that stuff. But also, there are times where they might want you now. And hey, you signed with us. We need you here tonight in Mexico City. This is where you're going to debut. And she did debut. She had a match. Forgot who she beat. I forgot who she even beat. But she had a match, I believe, in Mexico City and Monterrey both. But I'm not sure if she appeared in one, had a match in the other, or what. But she's already made WWE appearances, which is why she couldn't drop the championships. Now, in terms of the CMLL Women's World Championship, they held a triple threat for that title on the same day that she debuted for WWE, and Willow Nightingale picked up the title. So Willow, I believe, is the first American-born CMLL Women's Champion. I believe. That's crazy. She's had a big year. She won the Strong title last year. She won the TBS Championship this year. She won the Owen Cup a year ago. She was in the Owen Finals this year. It's been a huge year for Willow. And she is really getting a lot of experience points between what she's doing in Mexico, what she's doing in Japan. She's worked lots of Ring of Honor and AEW shows and, some indies. And Willow is doing great work. She's doing tremendous. Very happy that she was able to pick up that title. That's very cool. And now with Stephanie Vaquer in WWE, apparently, according to the reports, she is going to keep her name, which I don't know how I feel about that because I still don't know how to pronounce it properly. But we'll see if she turns up in NXT or if she's right to the main roster. I feel like, a stint in NXT is not going to be harmful to her at all. And she absolutely at least should start there. She doesn't have to stay a year there or anything, but maybe just kind of get her feet wet and, WWE system type of thing. No issue with that whatsoever. And apparently this is a dream come true for her. She always wanted to work for WWE. She watched them growing up. She had a tryout several years ago, which, she wasn't picked up on. And nobody really knows how this deal came together either. I don't know if it's WWE, eyeballing what AEW is doing and they see that showing from her at Forbidden Door and they decide to reach out, or maybe she reached out to them. If WWE was where she always wanted to be and she's got an offer from AEW, maybe she hit up somebody she knows in the company. Hey, let them know that I got this offer. See if they want to match it or give me a counter offer or something. I'd prefer to work for you guys, but I'm going to take this deal if this is all I got type of thing. We don't really know, but it was pretty amazing watching. I don't even want to call it discourse because it wasn't. It was just nonsense. A lot of fans having, various issues with this signing, whether you're a tribal asshole, you're a huge AEW freakazoid or whatever they're called, and you're mad that she left, hey, go to the WWE and it's a betrayal. Get over yourself. That's stupid. And in terms of her not dropping the titles, it doesn't automatically mean she's unprofessional and selfish. That's not what that means. It's what you want it to mean, but it's not the truth. The truth is she signed with the WWE. She was offered contract offers by the two biggest wrestling companies in the world, and she took one. That's all this is. That's all it comes down to. There's nothing to really analyze. There's nothing to really break down. This is a professional. She's a professional. We are not. We work normal jobs. She's a pro wrestler. We cannot pretend to be in this world or pretend we know how shit should be done or what the right way, or pretend to know somebody's circumstance. A lot of people with all these opinions about it don't know the story. We don't know how the deal came together or what WWE wanted or what she wanted or what they cared about. But the way the fans will automatically just assume that Stephanie Vaquer, somebody who has a great reputation, who's spoken highly of by her peers and by fans and everybody that she's worked for and with, in your mind is making her unselfish because she's not dropping her titles. It's not up to her. When you sign with WWE, you belong to them. So if they need you, they need you. Under normal circumstances, there are times when WWE is happy to let somebody finish out their stuff. They let Carl Anderson go back to New Japan to drop his title when he re-signed. He was very adamant about that happening. But with Stephanie Vaquer, she's in a different situation, and she's now finally signed with the Pinnacle. She is where she wants to be, where she's going to get the most professional exposure, and they need her for these Mexico shows. What can she do? What can she do? It's really nobody's fault. It's not like basically the fans who are complaining about this or throwing shade at her or being upset about this situation, at all, have never heard of Mike Awesome, Lex Luger, lots of other situations back in the day where people left under way shittier circumstances than that. Some people will just up and leave in the middle of the night, leave without dropping their championships, Mike Awesome, or whatever the case may be. We've seen a lot of defections throughout the years that fans, perceived at the time as not being handled the same way. I do not put Stephanie Vaquer in the same breath as a Lex Luger or a Mike Awesome. She did not leave like they left. And a lot of times in CMLL, they usually will back you when you're signed by the company. They've had a history of letting people out of their contracts early when WWE wants them. So to believe or just assume or to want to believe or insist that there should be any negativity whatsoever attached to this is silly. It's stupid. Just get a fucking life. Don't concern yourself with situations or business that isn't yours. All we are here to do is talk about Stephanie signing with WWE. This is cool. Can't wait to see what she does there. Who she's going to work with. Is she going to be in NXT first or SmackDown or Raw? Is she going to keep her name? What's her gimmick going to be? What's her theme music going to sound like? That type of stuff is what we should be discussing. Not, making broad assumptions about her personal life when you don't know jack shit about that. So we here on the channel congratulate Stephanie Vaquer with signing with WWE. If she would have signed with AEW, we would have congratulated her on that too. Because either way, that is a step up. Either way, she is now working for one of the two biggest wrestling companies in the entire world. That is a good thing, not a bad. It's unfortunate that she had to leave loose ends untied. That is unfortunate, but it wasn't malicious, wasn't on purpose. She didn't take any joy, I don't believe, in doing this to New Japan or CMLL. It's just business. That's all it is. And Charlie Assboy, the daytime stock boy, at your local Sheetz gas station, doesn't have a say in the matter. I'm sorry. So that was a little bit annoying to read this week. A lot of people have a lot of anger for no reason. There's no reason to even have an ounce of anger or frustration about this situation at all. Doesn't concern you. Don't worry about it. Let it go. WWE also had some news this week regarding a policy change in their trademarks. Now, this story came out earlier this week about WWE, I guess, now allowing the wrestlers to take their gimmicks with them. They sign over the intellectual properties to them and the trademarks when they leave, is basically what the gist of the story was. Well, when I was reading it, it was funny. I was sitting at the pool. In a chair. Everybody was in the pool except for me. I was sitting by myself, and I'm reading this story. Now, the sun is in my face. I can barely read it because, it's hard to see your phone. I got sunglasses on. I got a fucking hat on. And I'm trying to read what this says. And even when I could barely read it, I understood that this probably does not mean that all WWE trademarks are now the property of wrestlers. Like, for example, one thing I noticed on social media that people were saying immediately, oh, does this mean that Adam Copeland can go back to being Edge in AEW? Does this mean Mercedes Moné can be Sasha Banks in AEW? No. Even reading this in the sun, not being able to see very well, and with a couple of drinks in me, I knew that that was not the case. But I also knew that I needed some clarification on what exactly this entails. And Fightful Select had a good write-up on this this week, cleaning up a lot of the confusion on the WWE trademark name. So here's basically the way I perceived it when I read it. To me, it just looked like people who utilize a name prior to coming to WWE. When they come to WWE, WWE can't keep the name and steal it from them. When they come to WWE, their trademarks become property of WWE. When they leave WWE, their trademarks are handed back to them. That's the way I perceived the article when I read it. Turns out that's exactly what it means. So here is what Fightful Select said this week about clearing and cleaning up some of this trademark confusion. And I quote, on Monday, there was discussion that WWE has decided to turn over the use of wrestler names that got massively misconstrued online. During a conversation regarding Ethan Page's ring name being trademarked, it was noted elsewhere that WWE was allowing talent to use ring names after leaving the company. Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado were then cited. However, that's not the case. A good example is in Metalik and Lince Dorado themselves. WWE does not have the ability to prevent a talent from using a name that they utilized before coming to WWE and trademarking it. Lince Dorado, Adam Cole, Eric Young, Roderick Strong, Mercedes Martinez, Samoa Joe, Sting, Mustafa Ali, Tony Storm, Kyle O'Reilly, and Chris Jericho, and we'll even chuck CM Punk in there, are all examples. Those names have been established well before their WWE runs. For people using their real names, there's no way to prevent that either. This is a reason why Warrior, Ryback, Chyna, and Test, I was not aware Test changed his name, changed their legal names to the ring names in an effort to get around that. There are also some instances of partial names. Christian Cage was never simply Christian before and after WWE, so he's able to use that. Metalik used that name before WWE, but not Gran Metalik, so he's able to use the Metalik portion. Another example is Cody Rhodes, where he went only by Cody. The reason for this was WWE owned Rhodes as it related to Cody, because he never appeared for WWE, because he only appeared for WWE under that name. Eventually, WWE turned that over to Cody. Funny enough, Brandy was able to use Brandy Rhodes because her WWE name was Eden Styles. So, for example, AEW could debut a character named Jacob Cena next week if they wanted to, and WWE could debut one named Aqua Ospreay on NXT. We've reached out to numerous sources in WWE who confirmed these things for us. Years ago, TNA actually did turn over ability to use ring names, which led to EC3 filing a trademark almost immediately and continuing to use that moniker in WWE, NXT, and NWA. So, for example, as things stand, Raj Desi can't use Jinder Mahal, and AJ Francis can't use Top Dollar, and alike. So that kind of cleans it up, but that's kind of what I assumed anyway. I wasn't believing after reading the story that means every WWE name just now belongs to the wrestler that used it. No, there's no way. This is probably just clarifying, some of the just different situations when WWE doesn't recreate a stupid WWE name for you, and you already establish yourself under a given name, they can't cock block you and take that away. That's good. That's a good step forward. I still hate it though if I was a wrestler, I would try my best to establish myself on the indies and make a name for myself with my name. That way, when I go to WWE or if I get signed there, I can keep my name. I would try to be a good enough wrestler to where you have that bargaining chip. Look, if you guys want to sign me, great, but I want my name. I want my name. I would want to have enough leverage to get that done, to where if you're a trainee or tryout person, they're holding those big mass tryouts and all the gymnasts and the cheerleaders and all those people come in to try out and then they sign you, then you're going to be given a WWE name that you can never take anywhere else. And I think that's still the case. Like for who's the girl that dates Carmelo Hayes and she's the NXT North American champion? That's probably not her real name, right? Most likely, that's not her real name. So if she starts making a name for herself, reaches great heights, 8 years from now, her contract comes up, she goes to AEW, she has to have a completely different name. So it would suck if you're a trainee or a signee and you start out in WWE and they give you their name, their WWE created name for you. Then you become a big star, and then you get offers from all over the place when you're a free agent. You decide to leave, and you have to start from scratch again. If it was up to me, as a wrestler, I would try to get signed by WWE as, the name I've already been using. Kevin Steen, they made him change his, to Kevin Owens. Owens works. I like Kevin Owens, but if Kevin Owens ever leaves WWE, for example, and goes to AEW, he's going to have to be Kevin Steen. I don't think he's going to be able to be Kevin Owens, right? So clarification there was important. Good write-up by Fightful Select. Very well worth the $5. Go subscribe to them over on Patreon to clear up that confusion there, because I think a lot of fans really got ahead of themselves, as soon as they read that. Oh, trademarks don't exist anymore. And even when I was at the pool with drinks, reading it in the sun, and I could barely read it, I even knew that wasn't the case. So I was happy to read that little clarification this week about those trademarks. But it is interesting how many little policy changes like that we're starting to see happen in WWE, and how they might start lightening up a little, about some of their craziness that we've been so used to about the micromanaging and and the handcuffing and confining and constricting your talent so much was frustrating for the last 40 years. So it's nice that things are kind of lightening up a little bit. We had that global IT issue this week that's causing a lot of delays. Hopefully that will not affect Slammiversary tonight. Kaylani Jordan, thank you. Her real name is Leah Mitchell. So yeah, if Kaylani Jordan becomes the next Sasha Banks and she wins 4 or 5, world titles on the main roster, and then she decides to bounce for Mexico, for Japan, for AEW, she's got to be Leah Mitchell, and that sucks for her. So that would be the one downside if I'm a young kid, 18 years old, want to be a wrestler. I'm not going to one of these NXT tryouts. I'm going to go train at the Monster Factory. I'm going to go find a wrestling school. I'm going to train. I'm going to do my best, to hone my craft and become a good professional wrestler, make a name for myself if I can, if I have any talent at all. I'm going to try to make a name for myself and get my name out there, create buzz, and get signed by the TNAs and, make appearances for smaller promotions, get fans familiar with who you are, get a track record, get a good reputation going, and then show up at one of them NXT tryouts or whatever, and then get signed. I'm like, okay, look, I appreciate you guys wanting me, but I'm keeping my name. You're not going to name me, one of these crazy ass NXT names, which are so stupid. You name me Braun Breaker, I'm going to punch your grandma. That's not happening. So, what a funny story. Anyway, like I said, hopefully the travel issues will keep everything in check for Slammiversary and even Monday Night Raw. I'm glad I got back here in town before all that happened, which I believe was the next day. The Bloodline in WWE looks like it might be adding a 5th member soon, and I'm talking about the new Bloodline with Solo Sikoa as your current tribal chief, because Hikuleo, his signing to WWE has been confirmed. Now, we've heard his name for quite a while. We expected him to come in. His signing has been confirmed. He is officially there. However, no start date has been announced. Now, under normal circumstances, you might think, oh crap, could he show up at SummerSlam and help Solo Sikoa beat Cody Rhodes for the title? Could you imagine if Solo Sikoa beat Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam for the title? If a debuting Hikuleo shows up, that could very well be what happens. If not, I'm expecting Roman Reigns to show up. But Hikuleo's signing makes you wonder, because there's currently 4 members of Judgment Day. There's the Tongans. You got Jacob Fatu. Bloodline. The Tongans, Jacob Fatu, and Solo Sikoa, the current new Bloodline members. That's 4. You add Hikuleo, that's going to be 5. Now, we've all been wondering about this War Games match that we assume is going to happen at Survivor Series. We have been predicting the Bloodline Civil War at Survivor Series, I think, since before WrestleMania. So it's been a long time. We've kind of been expecting that to go down. So Hikuleo joining the new Bloodline at some point, whether it be at SummerSlam, it'd be hard to debut him there. I'm not expecting Cody Rhodes to lose to Solo. So if Hikuleo debuted there and then Solo lost, that would not be a very good debut for him. So maybe they're holding him off until after SummerSlam to bring him in to round out the 5 members of the new Bloodline. And what I'm hoping is after the Cody and Solo match, we get a Roman Reigns appearance. I mean, if Solo and Cody main event, which I'm kind of expecting them to, then I think we're going to get a big post-match angle like we saw at the Royal Rumble. We saw at Survivor Series last year where, Roman Reigns comes back. But why would he be coming back? To face off with Cody or to face off with Solo Sikoa? How would Roman Reigns come to confront Solo if Solo lost? Solo's going to be, you would think, unless the heels after the match attack Cody after he wins and then Roman makes the save, that's very possible. And if Roman does come back at SummerSlam, which I expect him to, I definitely think he will be there. Probably not even maybe to do anything physical, maybe just a face-to-face, who knows? But him coming back, that would be the beginning, I think, of how they could set up War Games. So let's just look all the way ahead to Survivor Series now. If it's the new Bloodline, Solo Sikoa, the Tongans, Jacob Fatu, and Hikuleo versus Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, that's only 3. Sami Zayn, maybe? And then you got to wonder who the 5th man is. Who's going to be the 5th man if it's like a Bloodline Civil War? Because that's all the Bloodline members. Sammy is a stretch, although he was officially in the Bloodline. So I think you could bring him back into that, especially as a babyface and not the weak link that so desperately wants to be in the group and who the rest of the group is just, they're just indulging him, letting him think. Basically, it was like Sammy's Make-A-Wish. They were just letting him run around with the finger up in the air, but they never considered him a member of the group. Things would be different now. They would likely go and recruit Sammy. I would love to see Roman Reigns personally approach Sami Zayn and say, let's talk. And just apologize for everything that happened. I want you back in. We need you. We need you. And then you still need one more guy. So on one hand, you could think of Cody, because Cody's been involved with the Bloodline, but I also think Cody might be moving into a feud with Randy Orton. So Cody might not fit if you want to have a Bloodline Civil War, because Cody is not Bloodline. There's only one member left, and that's The Rock. So how do you have a bloodline civil war if you're going to have 5 new bloodline members, and I can only think of 3.5 on the babyface side. So you got the Usos and Roman, and then Sammy, and then if you add The Rock to that side, but The Rock I want to see as a heel, you know? I almost think it would be better to add Cody to the match and have, you know, Solo and his crew against Roman, the Usos, Sammy, and Cody. And then maybe after Survivor Series, or at Survivor Series, you get some revelation or reveal that The Rock is the one pulling the strings behind the new bloodline, and he helps them win. Maybe he shows up and attacks Cody with the weight belt again, or rock bottoms Roman Reigns, or something like that, and the new bloodline wins War Games with help from The Rock. Something like that. I don't know, but I think it's going to be an interesting fall season here in WWE, because I'm really interested to see how all of this bloodline stuff shakes out. So we'll see when and if Hikuleo shows up in WWE, and I assume joins the bloodline. There's really no other place for him to be, storyline-wise, in that than bloodline. You're not going to bring him in just to be a completely different character, not associated with these guys at all, you know, unless they stick him on Raw or something, but I don't think that's going to happen. All right, moving on. We've got some news in the Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant lawsuit. Of course, this has been an ongoing story here for the past, you know, almost year. It's ugly. It's awful. The details were very, very graphic. And last we heard, Janelle Grant was asked to pause her lawsuit while the Department of Justice investigated Vince McMahon. He's in more deeper shit with them, I think, than he is with Janelle Grant. So that lawsuit's been paused. So there hasn't been a lot of new news on that, except for what we learned a couple of days ago. Back on July 16th, Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics and John Pollock of Post Wrestling reported that the lawyers for Janelle Grant filed some pre-action discovery petition against WWE doctor, Dr. Carlin Kolker, and his clinic, Peak Wellness. Now, Grant claims that she was sent to the clinic under Vince McMahon's orders back in November of 2019 and received treatments that weren't disclosed to her, including pills and IV infusions. Huh? Janelle claims that she asked Kolker about the substance of the pills she was being given, and Kolker allegedly pushed back and questioned whether Grant trusted him. That is sketchy as all hell, if any of that is even true. Why would you take pills and IV infusions without knowing what they are? What kind of doctor, when you say, hey, doc, what is this you're giving me? What, you don't trust me? Who the fuck says that? So she's either lying her ass off, or this is really even grosser than we imagined. Now, WWE, here's what they had to say in a statement that they made to WrestleNomics, and I quote, Miss Grant's petition for pre-action discovery against Dr. Kolker is a direct violation of the court-ordered stay, and nothing more than an attempt to generate publicity on her false allegations and to harass people connected to Mr. McMahon, who is being sued by Miss Grant in a separate matter. Now, let's pause right there, because this is like, they're acting like the courts are forcing her to pause and she's violating this. No, they asked her to. Hey, why don't you chill on Vince, because we got to get him for something bigger. And she's like, yeah, cool, go for it. It's not like she suffered some loss in court, you know, and she's forced to keep her mouth shut about stuff. You know, obviously this is a court-ordered stay, yes, but they're wording this like she's violated some policy against her. All she did was take the suggestion that she paused the lawsuit. That's it. So I don't think this is an attempt to generate publicity. If she wanted to keep herself in the limelight and she wanted to keep this case in the spotlight, then she would have refused to pause the lawsuit. Goes on to say this ridiculous statement, quote, that the facts are that Miss Grant told Mr. McMahon she was fatigued and asked him to recommend a doctor. Miss Grant called Dr. Kolker and became a patient of his. Her statement in the filing is inconsistent with her prior remarks. Miss Grant never had anything but good things to say about the doctor when speaking to Mr. McMahon and others about him. Well, according to who? Mr. McMahon? Because we know Mr. McMahon's a lying sack of shit. Perverted shit. Lion sack of perverted shit is what he is. So just because Vince McMahon says, well, she always said good things about the doctor. Well, you're Vince McMahon, so we can't take anything you say for face value. So more ugliness here, but, you know, you got to wonder, and again, we're assuming things about people that we don't know. We don't know Janelle Grant. I've only seen one picture of Janelle Grant. Barely even know what this woman looks like. So I'm not going to pretend to know what her motivations are or what's going on in her head. But this seems like a weird thing to make up. It seems like she already has a very strong case against Vince McMahon. There are piles and mountains of evidence depicting and showing and quite frankly proving Vince McMahon to be a really sick son of a bitch. So I kind of already feel like she's got him dead to rights in a lot of this. So to add this to now, say, hey, come to think of it, I want this doctor, investigated too. They were being shady with me there. Vince was sending me there to get treatments and I don't even know what it was for. Again, that's weird. I don't know why you would accept treatments from a doctor without knowing what it's for. So that definitely is a little bit inconsistent. But again, who's to say who's lying here and who's not? I just think if Janelle Grant, it would be a very weird lie for her to tell. She's already probably, looking at a pretty decent settlement and some justice for herself once this case gets picked back up. Why add a lie and potentially ruin it? Why fuck it all up with a lie? Why ruin your credibility by just making up a story? Why would she do that? Just think about it, So that's why when you read this stuff, I'm like, well, something must have happened in that doctor. Maybe it wasn't exactly how she said it went down. Maybe it wasn't exactly how Vince said it went down, but something went down there and it was enough for her to file this pre-action discovery petition. So we will see how that progresses. And I would like to think that the other shoe is going to drop on Vince here soon. They asked Janelle Grant to pause her lawsuit. I believe it was for 6 months. I can't remember. I feel like that might have been the case. So I would hope that within that 6 month time, the Justice Department, files whatever charges they have on Vince, which apparently could be, anything from, RICO violations to, I don't know, tax fraud, all sorts of stuff. I mean, they raided Vince's house last year, 1 year ago. They showed up at his house and took a bunch of shit out. So they got stuff on him. It seems like Vince is, his strategy should be delay, because the longer you delay, the older you get, and the less jail time you're likely to receive. Vince is a senile, crotchety, slumped over 94-year-old. They're going to really stick him there and Gen Pop, in the world's most dangerous supermax. No, I doubt it. So Vince is going to die a disgraced man, but he might be able to hold off proceedings long enough to avoid jail time. We will see where that goes. Should mention Joe Hendry. Apparently he's got a title match tonight at TNA Slammiversary. He showed up on NXT this week to do commentary where Vic Joseph said his name, and on commentary, matches going on in the ring. Vic Joseph mentions Joe Hendry and then boom. Song starts playing and Vic Joseph screams out, "Oh my God, it worked." And it actually worked. He came out and he sat and did color for a good portion of the show. I love it when people start creating buzz for themselves. And I like it even more now that WWE, they're working with TNA, which is just crazy. And seeing people now get over and create some buzz, and then WWE letting them, get more exposure in NXT, knowing that these could be people that are big members of their team here shortly whenever their contracts are up. Joe Hendry, Jordan Grace, I feel like at this point will be coming in whenever they are contractually able to. And until they're not, WWE is just going to try to use them in their working agreement with TNA. And this benefits TNA as well, working with WWE, I think, as opposed to being so against them for so long. We are a far cry from Cookiegate, aren't we? How times have changed since those days. But just seeing Joe Hendry and just TNA wrestlers in general appearing on NXT is kind of cool. We saw Dana Brooke come back. It would be crazy if Dolph Ziggler showed back up. What if Dolph Ziggler showed back up? That's an interesting one. If Nick Nemeth comes to NXT from TNA, is he Nick Nemeth or is he Dolph Ziggler? He was Dolph Ziggler for 20 years, or however long it was. He was in the company a long time, 15 years. 17 years, something like that. And then he's going to come back as Nick Nemeth. How's that going to work? And AJ Francis, Top Dollar, has been talked about as well, where we could probably see him show back up at some point. So the Joe Hendry stuff is just fun. I'm not really a big NXT watcher. I'm not a huge fan of the product, but I do like the TNA crossover. And whenever we see those crossovers, I think it's pretty awesome. And we saw a couple of big, signings and defections recently with Shawn Spears coming in, and then Ethan Page showing up and signing with NXT and winning the world title almost immediately. That's really cool. I like that. They might get some more wrestlers joining them in NXT, or possibly maybe just straight up on the main roster. The Motor City Machine Guns have been free agents for a while, and the belief now is, after it was believed they were going to be signing with AEW, Meltzer believes they're on their way to WWE. So we will see if they turn up anytime soon. And they've been around, for a while now. I've always liked, Shelley and Sabin a lot. And I'm from the Motor City. I was born in Motown, right outside Motown, in the little shit-ass town of Pontiac, right down the road from the Silverdome where Hogan slammed Andre. And Motor City Machine Guns coming to WWE would be great. I hope they do. So I hope Meltzer's report is correct and they do show up. Someone showing back up to AEW soon apparently is Sammy Guevara. Fightful Select had another good update. They had a lot of good updates this week. And this week they reported that Guevara's return to TV has been discussed over the last few weeks. And it should be noted that Guevara has not been suspended over the last couple of months. He has simply just not been used on television. So he got suspended, I guess, due to some concussion protocol thing with Jeff Hardy. And that was a while ago. Jeff Hardy's gone now from the company, and Guevara has been off suspension for a while, but they haven't found the right time to bring him back yet. I don't know if Mercedes Moné's presence there has anything to do with that or not, or if they're just, finding the right spot for him. I think with All In or All Out, maybe All Out, would be a good spot for him to make his return later on this month. We will see. Or if maybe he shows up. I wish you could see my cat. That is an unbelievable position he's in right now. Hilarious. Anyway, we'll see if Guevara shows back up on TV or if he jumps in a pay-per-view or interferes in a match or whatnot. We will see. Speaking of AEW, their media rights deal is apparently imminent once again. This is something that we've been hearing all along. I think the first time I was on a Winged Eagle where I said, hey, expect that new AEW Warner Brothers Discovery media rights deal to happen any day now. I think I first said that in February. Here it is, late July, and we are still without that deal being announced. Well, apparently it's really close again. The timing's pretty good. They had a pretty good Dynamite this week where they bounced back, to close to 800,000 in the ratings. Nobody has ever expected, nobody who's not tribal or bad faith anyway, nobody is expected for them not to re-sign their deal. I've never been worried about Warner Brothers Discovery re-upping with AEW. I think what it comes down to is the structure of the deal, the terms involved, the dollar figures involved, the profit, that type of thing. That's what's been trying to get worked out. And apparently it should be imminent any point now. And I think with this time around, I think a lot of the fans anyway, I know we were hoping that whenever AEW does sign a new media rights deal, that hopefully it involves some sort of streaming package, because we would really like to get the pay-per-views and the video library on a streaming platform somewhere. That might not happen yet. This might just be TBS and TNT re-upping their deal for Rampage and Dynamite and Collision. We might not get any streaming attached to this, or maybe we will. But I'm really interested once this deal gets done, and for all you sky is falling people, it's going to get done. They're not going anywhere. They will be on cable TV, most likely on the stations they've been on the whole time, although they could be exploring, other platforms, other networks, because they are still, Warner Brothers Discovery anyway, I think is still trying to work a little bit of that NBA deal out, because they might still retain some of their games, and I think that's still being worked on. So I have said all along that I feel like Warner Brothers Discovery probably isn't going to put full focus on AEW until the NBA is resolved, until they know definitively if they're going to have them or not. And it felt like they were gone, and now it's like, well, they might retain some D-League games or, I don't know, something. I'm not sure what's going on. So really not sure exactly what they're waiting on with the NBA, but it seems like once that's finally resolved, then we can get some answers here on AEW, so we will continue just to wait and see. Also, want to talk a little bit about Cody Rhodes' appearance this week on the Chris Van Vliet show, where he talked about a lot of stuff. I mean, this is like an hour and 20-minute long interview, and Chris asked him about a lot of stuff. But what made the most headlines was what he said about AEW, which wasn't even bad. I saw headlines, he dropped shocking bombs on AEW. I'm like, no, he didn't. And people getting all up Cody's ass. Tribalism is just it's just so crazy. It's so psychotic. And a lot of fans, yelling at Cody Rhodes for what he said. He can't stop talking about AEW. Stop talking about them. I guess you'll never know what it's like to be interviewed. Because when you're interviewed, I've been on a bunch of interviews. When you go on an interview, you know what they do? They ask you questions. You can't help what questions are asked. All you can do is answer them. And Cody was asked a shitload of questions by Chris. Chris is a great guy. He has achieved enough good faith in the community where I feel he can interview anyone and ask them anyone. I'm never going to be offended by a guest that Chris has on, even if it's somebody that I don't like or somebody that has a bad reputation. Chris has enough good faith to where, you can trust him to be professional, do the right thing. And his questions to Cody Rhodes were not out of line at all. At all. Cody, he talked a little bit about AEW, and I think he said, why don't you ever say anything bad about AEW? And that's what fans got uppity about, that he never says anything bad. And, he talked about his departure from the company, and there's a couple interesting things that he noted here. And he said one of the things was that he implied that he knew he was leaving pretty much the whole time. Maybe not the whole time, but a good portion of that time. He said he knew he was leaving. He knew that AEW was just a season for him and that there was something greater out there for him. Now, that's what he says. I personally believe when AEW first started, he had every intention of, being the Cody that he is now in AEW. I think that's probably what he saw for himself. Quickly started realizing that might not be achievable. Other issues that might exist between him and the Bucks or other board members or Tony Khan, whatever it was or whatever went down, he's hinted that it was very upsetting to him. He's hinted that he'll never really be over it, but also he's hinted that he's put it behind him and whatnot. So I'm not sure if I have a hard time believing that the moment AEW started, he knew then that he would eventually leave. I have a tough time believing that. I'm not sure if he'd be out there smashing Triple H thrones with sledgehammers if he really felt he was going to be leaving one day. But that's what he claims here. He compared the AEW run to sharpening his skills, much like Hogan was doing in AWA before he showed up in WWE. He kind of compared his run to that. And that's a fair comparison. That's a fair comparison, I think. I mean, if from today is the closest thing we have today to comparing a situation to something like that. And he also alluded to the fact that he doesn't really like the perception that he wasn't important to the origin of AEW because he was the last one to sign on. And he mentioned something about, the AEW defenders turning people off to their product instead of turning people on, and mentions that he didn't really like in the Young Bucks book that it implied that he was the last one to sign. So that means he must not be all in on things. Now, he didn't refute or dispute the fact. He goes, yeah, I was technically the last one to sign, but he pointed to another guy that was off camera that was the first person to meet Tony Khan in like a vetting process for all of them, just to, to kind of get that ball rolling. And he was just as much a part of the formation of AEW as anybody else there, regardless of when he officially signed on the dotted line. Now, to me, none of that matters. Apparently, it matters to him. And he even said, one day he's going to write his own book. And that's going to be an interesting book. I mean, we're probably 20 years away from that book being written, maybe 10. But when he does give his side of the story, what exactly it was, because remember when it was announced that he was leaving? Everybody was shitting their pants. Why would he leave? WWE's going to screw him up. They're going to bury him. He's going to be Stardust by the first day he's there. He'll be in NXT. Wrestling is Stardust. That's what everybody thought. And I'm like, does that sound reasonable to you? Would WWE be in the habit of going and flying out to Cody's house and signing AEW's top star, one of their executives, to a deal to stick him in the Stardust character in NXT. No, if they want Cody, they're going to bring in Cody. They already have, kind of the Dusty legacy with the Dusty Classic and his work in NXT. And, they've kind of immortalized Dusty, and they have, kind of a handle, and they have the grip on that Rhodes name and whatnot. And, maybe it was harder to do that in AEW. And that was the big thing for me when I thought about Cody going to WWE. I'm like, well, at least they can really, really lean back into the Rhodes history now and the Rhodes family. And they have big time. So we'll never really know what led to his departure. But in terms of what he said here, fans are acting like he dropped some bombs or something, or that he's got, it's the same mentality. Some idiot on Twitter put up a picture of Willow Nightingale wearing the Owen Hart Danger shit from the tournament final last week. Can AEW just go one day without mentioning WWE? It's that fan. that is the exact type of fan that probably had a problem with what Cody Rhodes said about AEW. I'm a huge AEW fan. Big AEW fan. Not in the least bit offended or concerned or angry at all about what Cody Rhodes said. If you hate WWE, if you hate AEW, you probably really enjoyed what Cody said. If you hate WWE, you probably hated what Cody Rhodes said. If you're just a regular, normal-ass wrestling fan who's not a complete tribal idiot, you don't give a damn what Cody said, and you move on with your day. That's what normal people do. So I had read the reaction to Cody's comments before seeing Cody's comments. And that was, I went in reverse because I'm on vacation. I'm reading through everything. And I'm like, what the hell did Cody say? I better listen to this interview now with Chris Van Vliet. And then I hear it and watch it. And I'm like, oh, that's it? That's all he said? Where's the controversy? What's the controversy? I don't get it. So anyway, that happened. Cody spoke on AEW, and it was really no big deal at all. All right, let's get into some SummerSlam and All-In card stuff here. Before we do, last night's SmackDown was kind of a boring show, to be honest, but a couple of things saved it. Number one, Andrade defeating Carmelo Hayes, which was a great match. Great match. Andrade even showed some love and respect to Carmelo after the match in like a post-match interview backstage. That was good. Like I said earlier, Bayley and Nia Jax had their sit down there on a collision course for SummerSlam. And I really like Bayley's makeup. She looked great last night. So did Nia Jax, to be honest. And Bayley was basically referencing something that I forgot about or don't even remember. I did not even remember her injury from 2017 when Nia Jax injured her, and Bayley brought that up. I mean, that was 7 years ago. Nia Jax was a very different competitor 7 years ago. She did have the reputation of being clumsy, of being reckless. A year later, she would blast Becky Lynch in the face and, screwed up her whole deal. And Bayley brought that up several times in the interview and called her clumsy and reckless to the point where it just frustrates Nia Jax and she walks off. Now, later on, Michin has a match with Tiffany Stratton, and Bayley is out there for that. She grabs a hold of Tiffany's briefcase in the middle of the match. Tiffany and Michin are wrestling. Bayley grabs the briefcase and just starts whacking the briefcase on the announce table. She opened it up. She put it down on the floor. She stomped it, bent it backwards, tried to rip it in half. This was enough to distract Tiffany, allowing Michin to beat her and get the win. And she was very happy. And Tiffany had to sit there now with a destroyed briefcase. So I feel like Tiffany could try maybe a cash-in or something at SummerSlam. But if I'm WWE, I'm having Tiffany hold onto the briefcase a little bit longer than SummerSlam. We'll have to see what happens there. But they are keeping her kind of in the mix and making it clear that she has an ongoing issue with the current women's champion in Bayley. We had Bianca Belair defeating Chelsea Green one-on-one. The women's tag champs, Mel Batost and Isla Dawn, appeared on the Tron to talk some smack to Bianca and Jade, who was out there in Jade's corner. So you have to wonder if maybe that's a match we're going to get at SummerSlam, and Bianca and Jade are going to win the titles back, or if this is going to be part of an eventual Jade and Bianca split or feud. I hope that it's part of a split or feud, to be honest, but it seems like WWE's keeping them together for the most part. I have not seen any signs or subtle hints or teases to any dissension in the team. So I don't know if they're going to have some big problem or issue at SummerSlam that leads to the split. Not sure yet, but looks like they're setting up a match soon here between them. LA Knight and Logan Paul also signed their SummerSlam contract last night as well. There was a brawl after the signing where they talked some smack to each other, and Logan was able to scurry out of the way of a BFT before getting hit with that. And the main event was Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens defeating Waller and Theory. That match was set up earlier on with Cody and the two champs, and then Nick Aldis booked him in a match but forced him to find a tag team partner. He found Owens. Shout out to Kevin Owens' mom, Mama Steen, who apparently kicked out of her pretty serious health scare. Owens was at her bedside in the hospital in Montreal for days and days and days, and posted a picture, I think just yesterday or the day before, of his mom sitting up in the bed smiling, saying she kicked out. Very, very, very happy to hear that, and I'm happy for him. So Owens looks like he got some good family news there. They were victorious over Waller and Theory, but after the match, the Bloodline came out and absolutely destroyed Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes and stood over their broken bodies and whatnot for the show closing angle there. If we backtrack a little bit and mention a couple of things about last Monday's Raw, I talked about earlier the whole CM Punk and Drew McIntyre thing and McIntyre's segment with Adam Pearce where he made him apologize and that stuff. We talked about that. But also, Dominic is trying to make things up to Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is back. She showed up. I think she opened up the show. And she calls out Liv Morgan, says she's going to fucking kill her. And that's when Dominic comes out with the rose. They're totally doing Eddie in China. I mean, Eddie had the night where he had to come out with the rose and grovel to Mamacita. So great. So before he can even really get a response or anything out of Ripley, Liv Morgan appears on the screen. She's kind of sitting on a staircase. It was really well shot. I like the way this came off on TV. Talked a lot of crap and talked about kissing Dominic and whatnot. And Rhea's not happy about that. And Liv, what I liked about this is Morgan understood that. She goes, I know that my end game was facing you at SummerSlam. So she basically accepts the challenge, knowing that she can't get out of it, knowing that it has to happen. But why accept the challenge? Knowing that Rhea Ripley could kill her, she accepted the challenge. Maybe she's got a trick up her sleeve, and I think she does. I think that's the whole point. I think we are going to see a big turn at SummerSlam. I think it's got to be that way. After that segment backstage, Dominic is trying to make it up to her backstage, and she's just having none of it. Come on, mommy. Come on, Mamacita. I didn't mean it. And she's just having none of it. Damian Priest, meanwhile, is getting a huge kick out of this. He's just laughing his ass off about the whole deal. And Jey Uso winds up approaching, I think this is a different segment or something. Jey approaches Dominic and Priest, who are chatting. And Jey tells Dominic to tell mommy I said hi or whatever. And he gets mad. And then Dom goes off and finds Adam Pearce to request a match with Jey Uso in the ring to fight for the honor of his mommy or whatever. So Jey and Dom have the match. Rhea Ripley is out there at ringside. She's, yelling at Dom to get in there and finish the fight. He ends up getting beat, getting speared, and Uso splashed by Jey. After the match, Jey does a little call me thing to Rhea Ripley. So I love that they're picking that back up because Jey kind of had a thing for Ripley months ago. That was a lot of fun. So the fact that they're picking that up again is pretty great. Backstage, Priest is getting a huge kick out of Dominic going through all of this. And that's when Rhea Ripley shows back up. And it seems like she has now taken Dominic back. It took some doing. Dominic, earlier told her that she belongs to him. And she goes, I belong to nobody, but you belong to me. So she says that Dominic is once again hers. And it seems like they're back together, at least for the moment. But I think the finish that you absolutely are going to do is Dominic turning on Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. I feel like Liv Morgan maybe at first was going to be a championship placeholder for Rhea Ripley, but now you got a story here. Now you got a reason to keep the belt on Morgan a little bit longer, and I like that. So she can keep the belt beyond SummerSlam and maybe drop it to Ripley back at the next pay-per-view, or maybe even at Hell in the Cell if they did a Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan match with Dominic as the referee or something, maybe. But I feel like Dominic absolutely has to turn on Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. And who knows what the state of the Judgment Day will be after that. I mean, if Priest loses to Gunther, Dominic is now out of the group, aligning himself with Morgan. Ripley lost her championship shot. That could create a lot of infighting and might even result in what happens to Priest later. If this happens earlier, maybe somebody comes out and screws up Priest's match with Gunther, although that match could probably just stay one-on-one. We'll see. Don't know. But it definitely looks like they're setting up for a big turn at SummerSlam, and that's fun. We did finally get the alliance we've all been waiting for. Chad Gable is now aligned with the Creeds. He's going to be calling out Bo Dallas tonight, or last week on Raw. He overhears Otis and Tozawa and Maxine talking about a friend who they want to help. And he goes, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys are on the same page. That's awesome." And they're like, "Actually, we weren't talking about you. We were talking about Xavier, who I guess Kofi is on the shelf again, and they've offered to help Xavier Woods in his battle with the New Testament, or the Final Testament." And Woods is like, "Oh, for real? Hell yeah, sweet. And then Chad Gable walks off mad. So then he's in the ring. See, we still never got the big angle in the ring between Alpha Academy. I think they kind of missed that opportunity there. But now Gable is in the ring, and he knows that Uncle Howdy is Bo Dallas, and he calls Bo Dallas out to the ring, and we see Bo Dallas come down to the ramp for the first time in years. He doesn't get very far, 8 feet, and he's blasted from behind by the Creed brothers, who attack him. They throw him in the ring, and the three of these guys just beat the hell out of Bo Dallas. And then while they're beating him, he's smiling and he's laughing, and he's just laughing. And they're like, "What the hell?" And then the lights go out and the Wyatt Six show up, and Bo crawls out of the ring and stands with them in the aisleway. Some more creepy stuff here. And I don't know if we're going to get Chad Gable against Bo Dallas or Uncle Howdy at SummerSlam. I feel like we need to, but they only got like another week or so to make this happen on TV. So we will see. But it was cool to see Bo Dallas, in the ring. It looks like he's going to be both Bo Dallas and Uncle Howdy, dueling roles just like his brother did. We'll see how it goes. We had Sami Zayn taking on Dragunov this week as well. This match was interrupted by Braun Breaker showing up and causing a DQ, spearing Dragunov. So we might get a triple threat. It might be Sami, Dragunov, and Breaker for the IC title at SummerSlam. That's what it feels like to me, but we could be wrong. And we finally got the first face-to-face confrontation between Gunther and Damian Priest. Fun little promo there. And it was pretty good. And it was enough to make me want to see the match now. Priest has done a good job. He beat Strowman clean on Monday. Should have mentioned that. I don't think I did. But Priest beat Braun Strowman. South of Heaven for the win. Looking pretty strong right now. But before that, he had the promo with Gunther, where the two went back and forth. And I think everybody's just assuming Gunther's going to win the championship. I still am. But Priest did enough on Monday to put a little hint of doubt in my mind that that's actually reality. Because you got to remember, Bash at Berlin is coming up too. They might want to hold off the victory for Gunther for Berlin. We'll have to see. Here's what SummerSlam is looking like now. Priest versus Gunther. Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa. Bayley versus Nia Jax. Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. Hopefully. Logan Paul versus LA Knight. Probably an Intercontinental title match consisting of Sammy and Breaker and possibly Dragunov. I think we also might get Chad Gable versus Uncle Howdy. And we might get some sort of a tag match. Now, we have 3 sets of tag team champions in WWE. So I think it's either going to be the women, Bianca and Jade, regaining their belts, or Judgment Day puts the pizzas on the line, or the DIY puts the pretty titles on the line. I think we're not going to get 3 tag title matches, but we should get 1. And if that's the case, then we're probably looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I guess 8 matches probably is what we're looking at for SummerSlam, unless I'm forgetting one, but I feel like it's just going to be those. Let me know if I'm missing one. All In is looking like this. Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland, Toni Storm versus Mariah May, Britt Baker versus Mercedes Martinez, likely Jack Perry versus Darby Allin, The Acclaimed versus the Young Bucks, Jericho versus Hook, possibly. Also, MJF is going to face somebody. He's the international champion. He'll either defend probably against Daniel Garcia or against Will Ospreay. Ospreay will also have a match. I suppose MJF, Garcia, and Ospreay could do a triple threat, but I feel like those would be 2 separate matches. So All In is looking pretty good as well. 2 big pay-per-views coming up this month, next month in August, and they're both looking pretty stacked. So that pretty much concludes my notes. I'm sorry that it was kind of a news-heavy podcast. This is just a catch-up podcast. Like I said, just trying to catch up on some stuff that I missed, that we haven't talked about yet, yada, yada, that kind of thing. Let's go to the chat here and see what you guys have to say before I get out of here. Please do me a favor and mash Mr. Thumbs Up button if you have not yet done that. Make sure I get all these supers here. There's 1, there's 2. Okay, Chris, I got yours earlier. Michael Cuomo, appreciate that, man. Another shoot brother of 23 months. Yo, Greg, how about this suggestion? How about we do a watch-along, the pilot for Jesse Ventura and Roddy Piper's Cop Show tag team? That would have gotten the green light. Well, I don't know where I'm going to watch that. Is it on Peacock? You know, like the thing about watch-alongs, I don't know if I can show that footage. So watch-alongs work when I can do the timer and whatnot. That might have to be an edited video that I could do. That was a crazy one. Did I mention SummerSlam 1999? I think I did. We're doing that 1 week from tomorrow. SummerSlam 1999 watch-along. Maybe one day we'll get to that. And the funny thing is, I remember the night of WrestleMania 6. I ordered that show on pay-per-view. Had people over to watch Hogan and Warrior. And I remember being so confused. Because even at 13 years old, I knew my wrestling history. So Roddy Piper, that was the year he fought Bad News Brown and he was painted half black and that stupid shit, remember? So he's coming down to the ring and Jesse Ventura is like, oh, Gorilla, I'm going to be a biased announcer in this one. That's my tag team partner down there. And Gorilla's like, I understand that. You know, and Jesse is just talking up Piper the whole match. And I'm sitting here racking my brain and I'm like, I have no recollection of Roddy Piper and Jesse Ventura being a tag team anywhere. I don't remember them even associating with each other. Well, actually, I guess I do. Jesse was in Piper's pit a few times. They've had some conversations, but I never knew them to have any sort of deep history. They've been on camera a couple times together. They've gotten into mischief once or twice together on some of those early Piper's pits, but there's no big deep friendship there that I could remember. And I had no clue what he was talking about. And then years later, I find out that they did a pilot and that's what he was talking about. But yeah, I've still yet to, I might have seen a couple of clips from that show. I don't even remember, but yeah, that was a wild possible TV show there. Population 420. It's good to see you as well. I got Chris Ludek chiming in with 5 more for us. Thank you, man. Maybe Jacob Fatu turns on Solo. They kick him out, and he has to crawl back to the original bloodline, and then The Rock is revealed as the new leader. Something like that. Because that's the thing. In a situation like that, or similar to that, is kind of what I'm expecting. I think Jacob Fatu is going to be really, really impossible to ignore. I think he's the standout in that group, even more so than Solo. And I think maybe WWE anticipated that being the case too. And they've got plans to shuffle some things around, you know, because Solo did declare himself the tribal chief awfully quick there. I don't know what makes him next in line for that, especially given his win-loss record of the past, 10 months. So it was weird. And so you would think if it was come together so quickly, it might end pretty quickly as well. And that is one way to do it. I definitely think The Rock needs to be involved in this somehow. And we're going to be getting, Rock and Cody Rhodes, I think, at WrestleMania 41, unless they do Rock and Roman. I don't know what's happening, but that is definitely a possibility. Yeah, thanks, Barry. I said Joe's name. He might show up on my stream. I don't see him. He's not here. No, Barry, I did not see that. AEW shows have been added to the Max streaming service, but not in the U.S. All right, might have to get me a VPN or something. Was not aware of that. I missed that story somehow, Barry. It was a busy week. Hey, Charles Jones, thank you so much for that comment there. I've been a fan of yours since 2012, and your stuff has always helped me when I felt down, so it's really great to be here. Yeah, I'm glad that I can be there. I really am. That I get messages like that a lot, and it's very appreciative, and I'm Just glad I can offer something. And that's the way, content creators and people that we start watching are. I have people like that do that for me. There's escapes that I have, and I'm happy to be somebody else's escape. It's, it's flattering, and I'm happy to help and happy to be here. Thanks again there, Charles, as always. MH Nova says, Kenny was the last one to sign. I don't give a shit. Well, Cody said it's true. If Cody wasn't the last one to sign and Kenny was, why wouldn't Cody just say that? So I don't know what's true, what's not. But maybe Kenny, didn't have as high of an EVP role as the other guys did. I don't know. I don't even know. It's not even important. Not even important. Barry, can't call a show with Bailey boring. Oh, okay. So that pilot is on YouTube. All right. Maybe we can watch that. Yeah, also Garrett is right. Body Slam. Body Slam is a crazily stupid movie, and everybody's in that, man. Flair and Piper and the Tonga Kid, and oh my God, so many wrestlers. Blassie's in it. Bruno's in it, I think. Like just in passing spots. Mr. Saito, the Barbarian. Lots of guys are in that movie, Body Slam. It's funny. I used to have it uploaded on my second channel as a full movie. I think it got taken down. Crazy movie. If you've never seen Body Slam, look it up. Well, anyway, guys, I appreciate you being here today for today's quick episode. Again, like would be helpful since we had a low audience today. Get that algorithm moving for me would be appreciative. And I got to go off to work now, and hopefully I will survive. So wish me luck. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and allowing me just to catch up and just talk about news that's old. I know some of the stuff is a week old. It's just I haven't talked about any of it yet. So I wanted to at least get some opinions out there about what happened with Stephanie Vaquer and all the other stuff going on as we hit ahead into SummerSlam and a very, very busy August of wrestling. It's going to be fun. So anyway, y'all have a good rest of your Saturday afternoon and evening. If you're watching Slammiversary or the G1 tonight, or Slammiversary, G1 continue tonight, or is that next week? Something's going on. Enjoy Slammiversary and join us tomorrow, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, watch along of SummerSlam 2006. Go to my channel right now. You'll see it up there right on the latest content tab. And that's what we will be doing tomorrow. So you guys have a great rest of your night. Thanks again for being here, and I'll